of the moment.
You're listening to Synth Drive on 92.5 The Juke.
Calling on my name.
Buddy, welcome to the CJUC Fund Drive, the 6 to 7. I would be with Fiona, but she is not in the territory now, so I am not with Fiona. I do, however, have Bill here, who is running the board for me.
Running the board.
And goodm.com. We would very much appreciate anything you can spare to keep CJUC on the air. The easiest way to donate is to send a e-transfer to the following email address: donate, DONATE, at CJUCFM.com. If you can spare $20, $10, $100, whatever you can spare, we'd be more than happy to have it. Help keep the lights on, help keep community radio vibrant in the capital city. So I'll tell you a little bit about my plan today. What's the plan today? Yeah, good question. So I'm going to read poetry. And often when I short. Today, there's no such time constraints. So I'm going to, but at the end of the show, you will recognize them. And I'm just going to start off. We'll see how it goes. And I hope you enjoy it. How does that sound, Bill?
That sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with what you would maybe call a Yukon classic, written by the Bard of the Klondike, Robert Service. I'm sure if you grew up in the Yukon, you are fairly familiar with this poem, but it's a good one of the Yukon. Old, and I sought it. I scrabbled and mucked like a slave. Was it famine or scurvy? I fought it. I hurled my youth into a grave. I wanted the gold and I got it. Came out with a fortune last fall, yet somehow life's not what I thought. Have you seen it? It's the cussedest land that I know, from the big dizzy mountains that screen it to the deep death-like valleys below. Some say God was tired when he made it, for no land on earth, and I'm one. You come to get rich, damn good reason. You feel like an exile at first. You hate it like hell for a season, and then you are worse than the worst. It grips you like some kinds of sinning. It twists you from foe to a friend. It seems it has been since the crimson and gold and grow dim. The moon, till the moon set the pearly peaks gleaming. The sheep on the hill, the stuck on it all. Tight as a drum, the cold fear that follows and finds you, the silence that blows slant, the stillness, the moonlight, the mystery. I've been the rivers all run God knows where. There are lives that are erring and aimless, and deaths that just hang by a hair. There are hardships that nobody reckons. There are valleys unpeopled and still. There's a land, oh, it beckons and beckons, and I want to go back, and I will. They're making my money diminish. I'm sick of the taste of champagne. Thank God when I'm skinned to the finish. Am fight, but gold so much as just finding the gold. Younger that thrills me with, and that of course is The Spell of the Yukon by Robert Service. This is part of the CJUC fund drive. If you feel like supporting community radio and allowing us means, feel free to send a few dollar bills our way. You can send us an e-transfer at donate, DONATE, at CJUCFM.com. I am Peter Jickling. I'm going to be your host from this 6 till 7 hour block. I've got our trusty captain, Bill, sitting across from me, running the board because it's just not my strong suit. I'm not the technical type, but I do certainly love community radio, and it has been a gigantic. So today I'm reading poetry, and as I was saying to Bill, I often don't get a chance to read longer. It's just me, so I'm going to read some longer. It's maybe the most famous American poem written in the last 100 years. It is Howl by Allen Ginsberg, one of the foundational texts of the Beat generation. The crowd just went wild.
And it does have questionable language.
Indeed,
for some.
it's written, but if you're not sure about how you would feel about some of those words,
please donate.
Yeah, still donate. Absolutely. Okay. This is the famous poem Howl by Allen Ginsberg, and it was dedicated to Carl Solomon. Madness, starving, look dynamo, in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats, floating across the tops of cities, contemplating jazz, tenement roofs illuminated, who pass through universities with radiant, cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake-like light tragedy among the scholars of war, who were expelled from the academics for crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull. Off to a good start, just turning the page. Who cowered in the unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and list marijuana for New York, who ate fire in paint hotels or drank turpentine in Paradise Alley, death, nightmares, alcohol, and the cock and endless balls, incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and light illuminating all the motionless world of time between. Peyote solidities of storefront boroughs, of T-head joyride neon blinking traffic lights, sun and moon and king light of mind, who chain themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy, racked and battered bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo. And to Bellevue, to Museum, to the Brooklyn Bridge, a lost battalion of platonic conversationalists, jumping, yakketing, screaming, vomiting, whispering, facts and memories and anecdotes, and eyeball kicks and shocks of hotels and nights with brilliant eyes, meet for the synagogue cast of the pavement, who vanished into nowhere, suffering eastern sweats and Tangerian bone grindings and migraines of China under junk in the railroad yard, wondering where to go, and went, leaving no broken hearts. Who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow towards lonesome farms in grandfather night, who studied Plotinus Poe St. John of the Cross telepathy at their feet in Kansas. Indian angels who were visionary Indian angels, who thought they were only mad when Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy, who jumped in limousines with their Chinaman of Oklahoma on the impulse of midnight streetlight, small town rain, who lounged, hung Spaniard to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa, who disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico, leaving behind nothing but the shadow of dungarees and the lava and the ash of poetry scattered in fireplace Chicago, who reappeared on the West Coast, investigating the FBI in beards and shorts with big pacifist eyes, sexy in their dark skin, passing out incomprehensible leaflets, tobacco haze of capitalism, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, Staten Island ferrying before the machinery of other skeletons, who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking pedastry and intoxication, who howled on their knees in the subway and were dragged off the roof waiting genitals and manuscripts, who let themselves be fucked in the ass by saintly motorcyclists and screamed with joy, who blew and were blown by those human seraphim, the sailors, caresses of Atlantic and Caribbean love, who bawled in the morning, in their evenings, in rose gardens and the grass of public parks and cemeteries, scattered their semen freely to whomever come who may. In a Turkish bath, when the blonde and naked angel came to pierce them with a sword, who lost their love boys to the three old shrewds of fate, the one-eyed shrew of the heterosexual dollar, the one-eyed shreds of the craftsman loom, who copulated ecstatic and insatiate with the bottle of beer, a sweetheart, a package of cigarettes, a candle, and fell off the bed and continued along the floor and down the hall, who sweetened the snatches of a million girls trembling in the sunset, and were red-eyed in the morning but prepared to sweetening through Colorado in myriad stolen night cars, North Carolina, secret hero of these poems, Coxman and Adonis of Denver, joy to the memory of the innumerable lays of girls in the empty lots and diner backyards, movie houses, rickety rows on mountaintops and secret gas station solipsisms of Johns and hometown alleys too, who faded in vast sordid movies and shifted in dreams, woke on a sudden Manhattan and picked themselves up out of employment offices, who walked all night in the laurel in oblivion, who ate the lamb stew of the imagination or digested the crab of the muddy bottom of the river of Bowery, who wept at the romance of the street with their pushcarts full of and who rose up to build harpsichords in their lofts, who coughed on the 6th floor of Harlem, crowned with flame under the tubercular sky, surrounded by orange crates of the morning were stanzas of gibberish, who cooked rotten animal lung, heart, feet, tail, borscht, and tortillas, dreaming of the looking for an egg, who threw their watches off the roof to cast their ballot for eternity outside of time successfully, to open antique stores, who were burned alive in their innocent flannel suits on Madison Avenue amid shrieks of the fairies of advertising and the mustard gas of sinister intelligent editors, or were run down by the drunken taxicabs of absolute reality, who jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge. This actually happened, and walked away unknown and forgotten into the ghostly days of Chinatown soup alleyways and fire trucks. Not even one free beer. Who sang out of their windows in despair, fell out of the subway window, jumped in the filthy Pasiac, leaped on Negroes, cried all over the street, danced on broken wine glasses, barefoot, smashed phonograph records of nostalgic European 1930s German jazz, finished the whiskey and threw up groaning into the bloody toilet, moans in their ears and the blast of colossal steam whistles. Who barreled down the highways of the past, journeying to each other's hot rod Golgotha, jail, solitude, watch, or Birmingham jazz incarnation. Who drove cross country 72 hours to find out if I had a vision, or you had a vision, or he had a vision, to find out eternity. Who journeyed to Denver, who died in Denver, who came back to Denver and waited in vain, who watched over Denver and brooded and loned in Denver, and finally went out to find out the time, and now Denver is lonesome for her heroes. Who fell on their knees in hopeless cathedrals, praying for each other's salvation and light and breasts until the soul illuminated its hair for a second. Who crashed through their minds in jail, waiting for impossible criminals with golden days or southern chain or grave. Who demanded sanity, steps, lobotomy, and who were given instead a concrete void of insulin, metrazole, electricity, hydrotherapy, psychotherapy, occupational therapy, ping pong, and amnesia. Who in humorless protest overturned one of the symbolic ping pong tables, rested briefly in catatonia, returning years later, truly bald, except for a wig of blood, and Pilgrim States rocklands and gravestones fetid halls, bickering with the echoes of the soul, rocking and bodies turned to stone as heavy as the moon, with mother finally blank, and the last slammed at the wall in reply, and the last furnished room emptied down to the last piece of mental furniture, a yellow paper rose twisted on a wire hanger in the closet, and even that imaginary, nothing plain space through images juxtaposed and trapped the archangel of the soul between two visual images and patter omnipotens artena do to recreate the syntax and measure out the soul to conform to the rhythm of thought in his naked and endless head. The madman bum and the angel beat in time, unknown, yet putting down here what might be left to say in time come after death. And rose reincarnate in the ghostly cloths of jazz, in the gold horn of shadow of the band, and blew the suffering of a saxophone cry that shivered the cities down to the last radio with the absolute heart of the poem of life. What's children screaming under Moloch, nightmare of Moloch, Moloch the loveless, mental whose ear is a smoking tomb, Moloch whose eyes are 1,000 blind windows, Moloch whose skyscrapers stand in the long streets like endless Jehovah's, Moloch whose factory dream and cloak in the fog, Moloch whose smokestacks and antenna crown the cities. Moloch, hydrogen, Moloch angels, Moloch, robot apartment, which exists and is everywhere about us. On down the American River, real holy laughter in the river. They saw it all. Auckland, where you've murdered your 12 secretaries. I'm with you in Rockland, where you laugh at this invisible humor. I am with you in Rockland, where we are great writers in the same dream in a straitjacket that you're losing the game of the actual ping pong of abyss. I'm with you in Rockland, where you bang on the catatonic piano. The soul is innocent and immortal. It should never die, ungodly in an armed madhouse. I am with you in Rockland, where 50 more shocks will never return your soul to its body again from its pilgrimage. Then it's still pretty racy by today's standards, but you can imagine 1950s USA and this poem, one of Allen Ginsberg's friends, and in the end, freedoms of the 20th century. Just remind you that I am here today, not as part of Instant Fire Escape, but as just a dude reading poems for to donate, DONATE at CJUC FM. I read poems, but I keep those poems fairly short because we only have an hour and we have a lot of stuff to get through. But today I am not encumbered by such limitations, so I'm reading some longer poems. That was what we just finished was Allen Ginsberg, his famous poem, The Epic Odyssey, Howl. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a kick out of it. Perhaps you, too, are an angel-headed hipster stalking the Negro streets for an angry fix. I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Regardless, we are happy to have you here today. So I'm going to read another poem now. This poem is fairly tense, caused by his left-sided cerebral palsy. She paused. He hoped she wouldn't continue. Finally, she pressed his bun molded beneath her finger, wedge-like, and pried it open. His other fingers followed. There was a tiny mole in the middle of my leg, his, and stretched her fingertips. His fingers, bowl-shaped, straightened under her pressure. Yes, when I was very young, placed one hand on his tricep and usually left. Perhaps we will go back to good old Robert Service here with another standard. Let me see if I can find. That's always a good one. Let me see. Hasn't any. With inwardness, his eyes are dim, while mine laugh out in glee. And humble I should be to see his stately Cadillac beside my jalopy. Ragged shirt, I do not envy Jim. My brother is a man of weight for every civic plum, with gastric ulcers grim. Ah, no, though I'm stony broke, I will not envy Jim. Another poem by the one and only Robert Service, Brother Jim. Just a reminder, I am Peter Jickling. This is the hour that I would normally be doing Instant Fire Escape with the one and only Fiona Solon. But Fiona is not in the territory, and as a fundraiser for CJUC, community radio operates on what you might call a slim budget, to say the least, and any money that you may have that you may feel like donating would be well met by us here on the banks of the Yukon River. Yes, communities of yet inspired by the poem I read earlier. This poem, everybody, the 3 years where we all gain. Anyway, so I don't know exactly what to do with this poem. I'm not sure if anyone, maybe it is. You guys can be the judge. This poem is called One Thing Then Another, a Pandepic. You follow emotional protective equipment, and you turn the wheel to look windward. Then the bars close. Then you find a website detailing total cases and total deaths from every country in the world, and you dive in, clicking links, calculating ratios, and there's something inhumane about your new obsession, but you tell yourself you are just scratching the statistical itch left untended since all the sports seasons ended. Then you read and read and read. Then you join a virtual birthday party, and dozens trickle in and out, and you drink all afternoon and giggle a lot, but the moment you end reception, you go hollow. Then your recollections of February claim the same whimsical haze as your recollections of youth. Then you go a week without really laughing. Then you sit on the slab by the river, passing Elliot back and forth in the sun and the wind and the life engulfing you. And yes, April has been cruelish, but this, here, and now is magic, think. Then someone you never met dies in Minneapolis, face down on the pavement with a pig's knee at his throat, and you are throwing your arms in the air. Then but soon you fill in all that. Then eating roll with a and it all ended perspective get so expensive. Then you lie on a couch and you don't talk much because human proximity is enough, and she's gained 20 pounds and she's beautiful and she's the least selfish person you know. Distance to smoke up but can't, and you berate yourself because the only thing more pathetic than a man trying to cry empty. And the manager strokes your hair as she walks by and says, "Nice to see you, darling," and her perfume lingers. Then it's perhaps we need optimism more than truth. Optimism can become true of each other. Hopefully it's still past. Once again, I am PC. Normally, I would be with my partner, radio of Whitehorse. $1 million, whatever it is. You can send us an e-transfer, EFM. Hang on directly after. Tune for that, for music out of the land. We are back. Fiona and I are back in our regular scheduled time slot as Instant Fire Escape. Starting tune in again that I wrote. I hope that Charles show. Please remember, if you says 6:59, but I imagine that it is
music from my brain. So don't touch that dial.